the 24th,
Yeah.
the morning of the 24th. But when we got out, we told them on the radio we was going to run out to one ridge, and we go down, head out that ridge, and then we cross over to the next one. We hear them leaving this ridge, going to stop us over there. So we cut out and go over there, and we get out. We run out, but we couldn't find a American unit nowhere, couldn't find no supply. We run nearly all day on the 24th trying to find supply, and finally went far enough that we did find one. We got out of the mountains there, and it was temperature's a lot different. Mm. But we got out of that on the 24th, and then on the 25th, the Germans, not the Germans, the American Air Corps started flying again. And I've never seen the like of planes in my life as there was in the sky. And you could see above, or mixed in with that, the German fighters is up there. And out of the, I guess they call them flights or wings or something, had 27 planes in this, however you call it, whatever it is, a wing, I guess. Out of that 27, they knocked 27 planes out of the air there. And we had some of the people that came out jump without being a parachute. What it was, they'd hit their planes and they'd bail out. Mm-hmm. As soon as their chutes would open, and then they'd start strafing them with the plane. Well, they got to where they just throw the chutes off and wouldn't even have them on. They just jump out to keep them burning, which you know good and well you and I would do the same thing. But one colonel, it fell within 20 feet of where I was that particular morning. Hit the ground, and his head popped off just smooth as you ever think, from his eyes to his ears right back. Mm. And he was laying over there. Believe it or not, the inside of the skull was as white as your shirt, not a drop of blood or nothing in it. You could take a hold of the man and it wouldn't be any more to it than that right there. I suppose it was they froze
coming in.
And then whenever it hit, it just pulverized it. That's the only way you could explain it. And we got the personal effects from the man and sent them to the people back out of his personal stuff there. Sent them to his people, and we finally heard that they had got them, so that was a satisfaction for us. But we, after we got out of that, we pretty well thought we had them cornered, and they got them stopped pretty well, and they sent us on back over to where we were in Germany. We got back with their outfit over there.
Did you?
Yeah.
Finally.
Finally, and of course, give them a chance to have a strong, I guess you'd sort of say, a defense for us when we did get back. But we made it through that and got started again and went on through Germany, and it was a little more resistance than the other. And we got up to the, I can't even think of the name of the river, but it's up Leipzig, Germany is where we were when the war was over. And the river that runs through the town, you know, nearly all of the towns have got rivers. Mm-hmm. And I can't even remember what the name of the river was, but it was out there. And the Russians was on one side and we was on the other. And that was about 8 to 10 days before they even announced that we had made contact with the Russians. And we'd laugh about it, you know. We'd go over there and we got a hold of some 12-foot long, 4-foot wide, inch and a half thick marine plywood. I don't know where it come from or who got it, but we got a rope and got it across the thing by putting it on a smaller deal and throwing it across, and it pulling and pulling. Finally got a rope across and then put a pulley on that piece of plywood. You could stand on that and keep it going one way, and that water would push you over. When you go over here, you switch it around the other way, push you right on back over. And we had been over several different times with the Russian. And you know how GIs are. They had Calvados and cognac, and the Russians had vodka and something else, and I can't even remember what that was, because that wasn't what I was over there for. Anyhow, we were there when the thing ended there. So we never did get to Berlin. I never did get to Berlin. But when I got there to Leipzig, Germany, was on the 8th of May is when they had us turn our ammunition and guns and everything in, and the war was over. And
right.
On the 8th of May, they told us that we'd have next day we'd have a formation. And there's 4 of us, 4 of you has enough points that you'll be going home immediately. Well, that sounded good, you know. And that was in the afternoon, after we did have a formation that afternoon, and that's when they announced this other. And the next, we went on to bed, and about 12 o'clock, they come and woke us up. You got to go. You got to go. You're going to be leaving within the hour. Get your personal stuff together, and you're going to leave. Well, sure, I'll do that because I'm going home. Do you know what they did? They transferred us into a trucking company. And they sent us on a mission of helping gather the dead throughout the woods and away from highways and unaccounted places. And they'd take German prisoners and they'd get those people out to a road, and then they'd send us out there with the truck drivers doing the driving. And we would go out there, and the German prisoners would load them, and all we'd do is sit there and drive. We were the assistant drivers. If you know how the Army works, you had to have a driver and an assistant driver. And we were the assistant drivers on it, and we were hauling bodies back to Liège Cemetery. And that's what we did till the 29th of May, and the 30th was the Memorial Day. And General Eisenhower came by that day. And he won me right then for the presidency. Somebody had told him that there's 4 of us that is in the group that had points enough to go home, so found out that we had been through all 5 battles. And when he come to me, I didn't know he knew anything about it. Of course, I was standing at attention. And he said, "Be at ease, soldier." So, you know how you do.
Right.
So I done that, and he said, "I'm going to face you, and I want you to face me. I want to thank you for the service that you've given. I understand that you was in all 5 battles." I said, "Yes, sir, I was." He said, well, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You don't know what it means. And he told the other three that was with him. Of course, he didn't know what that meant to us either after what we'd been through. And I don't know, that was in the last part of May, and we didn't get to come home, didn't even get to start home till somewhere over in August.
Goodness.
They sent us back to Le Havre, France, but we were more or less just, you was afraid to go anywhere, afraid they'd call you. And they didn't have to police us or nothing. We was there, and that is part of the thing about it. They finally got us ready to come home sometime in August, and it took nearly 2 months for us on a little old Liberty ship to come from Le Havre to Boston. And
well, when the May the 8th, when the war was over and everything there, as far as Europe was concerned, did the Germans as a whole put down their arms and not fight anymore? Did you have any trouble?
They had an armistice about it. Yeah.
You didn't have any trouble with it?
We never did, because on May the 8th is the day that they told us that it's over with, and they made us turn all of our ammunition and guns and everything in. See, but we couldn't. If they'd have had an uprising, we couldn't have done nothing about it. We'd had to get somebody. Of course, we had MPs and things that people that did have guns, even our guards, for instance, when you was on guard duty, you had gun and ammunition. But as a whole, the General Ron didn't have the ammunition and gun.
Of course, you knew at that time also that the war was only over in Europe, and war was still going on in the Pacific.
Oh, yes. After May the 29th, they sent us back, and I don't know if you realize it or not, but back then they had to see your physical exam to get you out as well as get you in, so to speak. And I was back at a place, and they were running me through a screen, and if you notice, my nose is all crooked, and they want to know, says, what happened there? Well, how did I know? I mean, that's the thing that happened D-Day, and you don't remember everything that took place. But it was from, I guess I hit something, or something hit me or something. Anyway, it busted my nose up pretty good, and that officer said, well, says, you sure do need an operation mighty bad there. And I thought, well, I'm going home. Why bother with it? He says, I tell you what, if you'll sign this petition here that you'll go to help fight Japan, says we'll put you in the hospital and fix that nose right now. I said, man, me, I signed that. I said, I volunteered for this, and I've been through 5 battles. Why would I want to volunteer for something else when they should have it about over with over there by now? And they said, well, we ain't going to operate then. So I come home, and I haven't been operated on yet for it. But that's the way the Army will do you, and I don't have any names and ranks or nothing to give anybody, but I got pretty well done the same thing out at Camp Shelby. When we came home, I never felt as much at home in my life anywhere as I did when I got off the ship at Boston. We got off the ship there and then didn't stay but 4 or 5 days till they headed us to Camp Shelby. And we were on trains, and we were sidetracked and wait 4 or 5 hours for some other train to come by. Well, every time you'd think about it, well, why bother with it? Why think about it? We're at home now, and we're gonna be at home, but you couldn't get there quick enough. I never will forget. We come by, and from here, Ripley, Corinth is 34 miles, and we come through Corinth, going to Memphis. We went to Memphis, turned right around from Memphis, headed to Jackson, Mississippi, and well, to Camp Shelby, which is on the other side. And I couldn't hardly make myself stay on that train. I wanted to go home. Anyhow, and we got to Camp Shelby, and they called us out and lined us up, said, okay, anybody that wants to go home, get over there in that line. And that's all they said. And they waited, and several of us got over there in that line. Said, anybody that wants to make a claim, get over here in this line. He says, if you make a claim, you're going to be here from 10 days to 6 weeks. I can't tell you when you'll get to go home. Well, several of them said, well, can we get over on the other lane? Yeah. So there's lots more come over in the same lane that I was in. But that was in the afternoon, late one afternoon, and they sent us home the next morning. But they bribed us into doing it. And
right.
Of course, that was fine. I mean, I didn't have anything particular that I was going to complain about. But now, I can't hear, and they claim that that's because of some loud noise whenever I was a kid. Well, I don't know what kind of a noise you'd have to be in, but I was still a kid whenever that took place, and I guarantee you I never was in anything that was like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have words to explain what it was.
My dad said the same thing. Let me ask you a question. After you got home, did you? My dad always said my mom. Well, I wasn't around, but my mom said when he first got home, and it took him 4 or 5 years where he didn't wake up at night, having nightmares.
I know what you're talking about.
He couldn't stand to hear fireworks at a 4th of July celebration.
Right, I know just what you're talking about there. And I told you way back when we first started,
right,
that I wiped this away. Well, you wipe it away, and you wipe it away, and you wipe it away, but you don't ever get rid of it.
No.
But my dad bought the Colonel Faulkner place right just north of the clinic there, and the railroad goes right by. Mm-hmm. And I was sleeping in the west room one night, and apparently I had laid my leg over the edge of the bed. And you know how if you cut the circulation off, they go to sleep.
Right.
And the train come along out there, and I remember how that thing sounded just exactly like a drove of German planes coming strafing and everything, and you're scared to death all over again. And well, no need to lie about it. You wouldn't have been no more scared, and if it actually happened. But I fell off of the bed, not knowing that I had. My leg was asleep, why it was asleep. But I fell off of the bed, and my dad come up to see what was going on. Of course, I acted like it wasn't nothing. I said, well, I just fell off of the bed, but that wasn't really what it was. I never did tell nobody what it was. And it's only been 61 years since this started. Believe it or not, I still have short spurts of it
nightmares and things.
You don't dwell on it. You just let it go, pass on, and forget it. You don't tell nobody about it. You don't say nothing about it. You forget it. You forget it. You forget it, and you forget it.
You never did get back to your original outfit, did you?
Well, if I had original outfit,
You don't even know.
I went over as a replacement, really.
Okay.
And I don't know what outfit I was
Okay.
supposed to have been with, other than where they put us off. I got with the outfit, it was there, and I wound up with the 3rd Armored Division.
Okay.
They had to have somebody that was mechanically inclined, and you had to have somebody that knew a little bit about machinery. And I was, of course,
Right.
born and raised around machinery. Set blocks of soil when I was 8 years old. And I drove a truck whenever I learned to drive a truck when I was 10 years old. And, well, I got my license at 13. And among the first ones that ever had a license in Ripley, Tipper County, because the people from the highway patrol come up right after the Highway 15 was paved from Ripley to Walnut. When it was finished there, the highway patrol came up, and I don't know whether it's something that I had dreamed up or whether the man's name was Steele, but to me his name was Steele. Great big fella, and a little bitty guy about half his size. And apparently the guy half his size was the boss, because he'd tell him, said, take that boy down there and throw him in jail and throw the key away. And he gave me an ultimatum, and I had to work all night long until noon the next day to get the truck in operation. And up there on the square, right at the monument, where the monument used to be, on the southwest corner of the square.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to meet him there at noon the next day. And I met him there, had it fixed like he'd passed inspection. He inspected it. He said, yeah, he says, that'll pass now. He said, I'm going to see your driver's license. I said, man, I haven't got any driver's license. What do you mean driver's license? He said, well, you got to have a driver's license to drive. I said, no, you don't either. I've been driving and I have never had one. He said, well, you from here on in, you got to have one. So I said, well, he says, I can sell you one. He says, you're going to have them. You may as well buy them. I said, well, okay, I'll buy them then. He started writing them up. He come to the, when was I born? And I told him. He wrote that down. He looked at it. He said, why, you know? He says, how old are you? I said, well, I'm 13. He said, well, you're too old to drive. And my daddy knew about me, about him catching me, and he come by and coming up behind the guy. He says, you were 13 years old, you can't drive a truck. And my daddy said, hey, what's wrong? What's going on here? The guy said, well, says, this boy's 13 years old, and he can't drive a truck. And my daddy says, the hell he can't. He says, he's drive better than you and me both could. So the guy said, well, would you sign for him to get a license? He said, yes, I'll sign. So he signed for me. And I bought a 5-year license for 25 cents. But now that wasn't chicken feed at that time.
Sure.
But,
all right, you said, let me ask you another question. You said you were talking about there were 4 of you that had enough points and everything, and you're to come home early. Remember that?
yeah.
Were you with those 4 a long time? Pretty much the 3
Well,
battles. Was there
pretty much
anybody?
so. They stayed on till we got through this center where the doctors were that examined you.
Yeah, I was talking about though. Were you with anyone through all 5 battles that you can remember?
No, they you didn't have to be through all 5 battles to have enough points, but it just happened that I had that many points.
But there wasn't anybody, no one particular individual that was with you throughout the whole time.
No.
You always somebody different and all that.
Always.
I didn't know if you had a close buddy or anything.
Well, yeah, you had them, but they didn't last long.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Some of the things you can't talk about. I'm sorry, but
that's okay. That's all right. Did you? You were pretty lucky then. I mean, as much as you were.
call it luck, but I call it the good Lord took care of me.
Because you didn't really get any major injuries or anything, did you?
Well, I did in a way. I got I don't know whether it's shrapnel or a bullet, but when we was up at out from St. Beeth up there at the Battle of the Bulls, I got my boot filled up with blood and froze. And you're laying there and you're cold, so numb anyway, and you don't realize it. But it ain't gonna bleed much if it's cold.
Right.
And there's several GIs laying around there that they wasn't gonna need anything anyhow, and they had a sulfur pack on your belt. Everybody had the same type on their belt, if you know what I'm talking about. Well, I had one, and I borrowed one from a guy that wasn't going to need his. And I put one on one side, one on the other, and wrapped it good. And I stopped the bleeding from that. And that happened about 17th. This is just vaguely what I remember. And by the time we got out of there, well, he'd done it. That had all done cleared up and so forth. We had a little branch down there, the running water. Now, as long as you could find some running water, if you go down there and walk in that, you'd thaw your feet out. You'd thaw your feet out walking in that water. And we had walked in that several times through the day. And that's how you really got them thawed out. And I remember when we got out from there and got some clothes to put on, I had to get 2 different fellows to help me get my socks off. And when they'd pull them wrong side out and strip them off, and they'd sound like cloth tearing, and it just sounded like that off my feet. And lots of these hide and skin and stuff come off of your feet. And I still have, even to this day, and I think it's from that. But of course I can't tell, and they say it's not, but I have different times of the year that my feet peel off and blister and so forth now.
Probably is.
But my toenails come back with ingrowing toenail and all of that kind of stuff. But the government says no, that wasn't because of the service. Which it might not have been. I didn't have any proof of it.
Did you get being out in that weather and everything? Did you get sick much or sick? Did you get much sick, or back then did you have things such as the flu? Or
I remember being sick when I was in the water after I had a hold of this thing, and I was spraying water and strangled and got sick. And
right.
That's the only time I remember being sick.
I saw something on TV last night where they were showing how they laid mines down in the water, floated some up, and then they put some by those crosses, and then they'd lay a barbed wire. Then after that, it was just a chain of events all the way up to
well, yeah, they had some of that, and they had they had a lot of that, but I said a while ago that our engineers had done a good job. our engineers get in there and they had something, I don't know what it was, but they'd get that
Wire.
Wire and they'd string it tight enough to break it. And they'd keep going and they'd get it again and they'd get it tight enough to break it. And it'd cause it to explode way out in front of them. I don't know how them boys done it, but now they could find them bombs and things. They had something to find them, and if it hadn't been for them, we wouldn't be here today.
Right.
So they did a good job, and I'll praise them for that. And of course, they did a good job down where the engineers did whenever they at the Remagen Bridge. See, I was one of the first ones to cross the Rhine down there. We caught the bridge down there intact, and we got across before they ever blew it. I ain't no telling how many of us got across before they blew it. But the engineers come in and they already had 3 pontoons, I think is what they call them. They had pontoons across the Rhine already when they blew it. But I've got a picture of the Remagen Bridge before it was blown and what have you. And maybe have a picture of the engineers' pontoons. I don't remember. I mean, that's just some of the things that I remember. Now, I know after we crossed that the 3rd Armored Division made a big circle. One group went this way and the other group went the other way. And just encircled what do you call it, Rhine Valley there. And that's what we done. We made a thing and encircled it. And the General Rose, was the division general, commander. And when we got together up there, he said, well, we got that all right. Says, I better go back and see where the rest of them are. Says, get some more orders. So he was taking orders from somebody, and I guess it's all taking it from J. Lawton College was the manager of that particular one, you know. You had him and you had General Bradley was for the 1st Army. J. Lawton College was for the 7th Corps. And then they was run on back up to Eisenhower, you know. And I guess that's where he's getting his orders from, but he headed back with just him and his driver on the Jeep. Didn't have nobody running shotgun guards or nothing. He just thought it was so easy going up there that we had, you know. But what they done, they pulled out. When we went through, they turned around and pulled back in. And when he come back alone, well, then they let him have it. They just shot him all to pieces. And they paid for it, but
well, Mr. Street, you got
things you don't want to get started talking about.
No, I know.
I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it.
I'm so appreciative of what you've shared with us already, and it's something that I won't forget, and it's something that can be shared with school kids and things of this nature in the future, and try to help them understand and learn and appreciate what you've done, and all your life, and it's something we should never forget, and I don't want to, and your actions kept me out of it, okay? I mean, what you did kept me probably from having to do something in the future or past.
Well, let's just say it this way. We Americans knew that we had a job to do. Let's go do it, get it over with, and come back and take up where we left off. And that's exactly the way I felt about it and the way I tried to do.
Sure.
Last night, there's somebody on, they was showing it on television, and somebody said that he knew that he was fixing to get. And they knew that he was going to kill him. He knew he wasn't going to get back. Well, I didn't know I wasn't going to get back. I wanted to go, and I done everything that I could that would help me get back. Mm-hmm. And I did what I thought was the right thing to where I could get back. And apparently I must have done pretty well for what needed to be done to get back.
Right.
You know,
I've wondered the same things. Now, you and I are talking that you had to go through a lot. And I remember my dad, he went to North Africa, and then he went from North Africa into Italy. And he didn't last, he only lasted about 2 weeks before he got hit. And it took him, he was paralyzed, and it took him, a number of years to get to where he could walk good and everything.
Yeah. Well, I realized that I didn't pay the sacrifice that so many, and that's the reason it.
No, you did. Physically, mentally, and everything. Emotionally, I'm sure you did. Well,
these memorial services we have, to me, a lot of them seem like that think they're there soldiers, the GIs or whatever you want to call them, think that you go to the memorial service and they are doing it to promote you. I don't think so. I don't. It ticks me off to see somebody that got better clothes, and they come to one of those dirty. Now I'm not got anybody in mind or no name or nothing, but you understand what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
And I go thinking about the ones that
didn't make it. Right. Well, that's the way it ought to be. That's the way it should be. Yeah, and we don't understand that. It's my generation and everything. And that's the reason we're doing it again, is to tell people exactly what we should be doing and how we should be acting. And I'm proud of my dad, and he passed away about 4 years ago. And part of my reason for doing this is to honor him. And,
well, I hope you do, because he deserves it.
Oh yes, sir. I agree with you totally. But I appreciate you talking to us and telling us all. You want something else?
Let me say one more thing.
Sure.
I think she showed you the book over there. I had another brother that was in Italy. That's where he got hit.
Okay.
Was in Italy. And I was just wondering if maybe your dad and him was in the same outfit.
What was he? Where was he?
He was in Italy when he got hit. But now he was an infantryman.
My dad was too.
And they went from what's that fort the other side of Boston up there? Anyway, they were stationed there.
My dad was at Fort Meade, Maryland for a while.
Well, no.
Before he went, and then
they wouldn't be in the same one, because my brother was up there out.
My dad was in the 69th.
69. Well, now that sounds. I better not say it is, because
he fought in Italy near Naples at a place called Monte Cassino Abbey.
Well, that's all of that's really
sounds familiar.
Familiar.
Well, that's where he was.
My brother got the Purple Heart, but of course, I don't know that that's caused it, but he died in 1967, and he got hit in the leg, and he had a 10% disability. Mm-hmm. But he didn't have to go back after he got hit that time, and he got the Bronze Star because he got 20 prisoners. Mm-hmm. The day that he
was hit.
After they hit him, he still went on and got them and took them prisoner, and they sent him back then, and he went from there. And I've got his Purple Heart in there and his Bronze Star, but
Yep. My dad has the same thing, but like I said, he just didn't make it long. He was real bad fighting. I think he lost. Seemed like there was 220 something men in his company, and there were only 16 of them that came out without injuries or, you know.
Well, I can go along with that because I happened to be among the 16 one time, several times, and I know what she's talking about there.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry that I'm just so emotional that I can't go on some of that, but some of it just gets, well, you have to go through it before you know why, I guess. But,
well, you've shared a lot, and from my perspective, I thank you and I appreciate it, and we'll stop it there.
Okay.